other areas. So Pacific, some say we came from other areas also. So what what we have here is a mix. So if you can understand voyages, so there's different voyaging. So some voyages were they were asked to go travel around the world and seek different and to actually acquire land. But ours was to, or Hawaiians were to. Um, there was a prophecy. The prophecy for our people, our Hawaiians, or our past. Um, they said you go there towards that light, and that was to help them to find new land, like other civilizations. They wanted to look out for other lands. Same thing with our people, the Hawaiians. And
The fish ponds in particular.
yeah, so what happened was, as they got here, the first thing, the first canoes, this is the first canoes. You can imagine maybe you're going to settle someplace, so they're setting up first, the first wave. And the first wave are your strongest and most intelligent to build agriculture right away. Homes, agriculture, everything. So on the canoes, again, strongest man and woman, they brought food with them so they can put in the ground right away. What is the next thing they can use? So one one major thing is bringing fruits. Uh, Another thing, animals to start right away. The other thing is to build this. The yeah, so you have the land side and you have the ocean side. So ocean side is right away. You can um, from the ocean you, you can get fish from it already. You can set up your land divisions. For this to happen, you can't just start this. You can't just say, okay, let's make a wall. You have to have a land division goes up to the very top of the hill, which is way up there, and that's where the fresh water comes from. And so you have to have a stream. So that's a manifestation of building an ahopa, and that's what they want to do, to build a village around that stream. So from the top of the mountain, the stream starts. There's on either side, you can divide your village. The top will be the most prolific because it's very cool, but also as you're building it, you have divisions. The second division of well, so top, middle, and bottom. That's a economic system for people being a fisherman to people at the top being the farmers, and between the fishermen and both in the middle with building repetition kind of forests. What kind of trees, what kind of plants are going to be planted. Taro had to go in the ground right away. And so if you get that water, the stream, you get the water, that fresh water coming to the stream and clean water, and then you can set up that fish pond. But you have to make sure that those will cultivate and sustain. Very important. So some islands, so this side is a leeward side. This side is leeward. The other side of the mountain on that side is windward. very wet. The sand is dry. So you have to understand how the first gun was wet. Maybe they stopped and then they said, okay, you guys go around the other side of the island. Just go see and let us know what's happening there. How many streams do you have on their side? And this side too. How many streams you have in this one area? Over here, I think. How many streams on this side we have at the 9 streams?
But most don't run.
Yeah. At least
Because of
nowadays.
climate change?
No, they were channelized, many of them, for diverting water. And then because of the recent times, but also to build Honolulu.
Yeah.
The sacred part of it, though, is the word ahu in ahu pua'a is an altar. Ahu pua'a. So ahu is an altar. And we have built one over here. It's pile of stones. That's referred to as ahu.
What's an altar?
See this pile of stones here?
Altar
So
and
it's a
altar.
place
Oh,
where
an
altar
altar.
to talk about the sacred
Yeah.
element of it. So there would always be a priest, caretaker, right? Who, in times of scarcity, that's where they would go to place the offerings, to ask the ancestors and the akua to bring abundance. They would place it on in ahu. So ahu pua'a is an altar. Pua'a is pig. Pig. And that's where a pig would be placed, pigs would be placed as offering. So you wouldn't go from one to the next without making an offering. The amazing, what we learned when we went to India, we went to a village called in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Maharashtra. I forgot the name of the village, but they live in Hale. Similar to this, they still live in it. And I saw along the road these rock formations that look like and so I asked the elder, what are those rock formations? He said, oh, those are boundary markers. And over here, they're on the boundary of each section to mark the beginning of one and the end of the language. So we also have similar ones, smaller, called ko'a. And those are fishing shrines, where in times of scarcity, the woman would place offering to appeal to the gods and the ancestors to bring abundance. There was also a mo'o'akua wahine. Mo'o'akua wahine, like a lizard goddess of this whole estuary of Pu'uloa that the ancestors believed was responsible for bringing all of the creatures, all of the life from Kahiki with us when they came. And that's who they honor. And there's a place offerings. So there's an interesting story that says there was a time when we had kapu. We were under a kapu system, right? That was the way we functioned before. Except there was no separation of church and state. It was together. And so the couple was even extended into when you could gather certain foods from the water. And there was a couple on the oyster. And Konohiki, who is the manager of the Ahupua'a, who makes everything managed, came down here and saw a woman with a basket and it filled with seaweed or limu, kind of like that. And he said, "What's in your basket?" And so he opened it and she had gathered some oysters and violated the kapu. So she had to throw them back into the water, put them back. But he didn't let it go. He followed her. He was so irate that she would violate the kapu that he followed her home. And he tried to exact from her a gold coin. So giving you an idea of a period of time, right? I don't know when that is, that the first gold coin came to Hawaii, but he tried to exact a gold coin, and this is when we're not in a cash economy. But the mo'olelo, the story that the ancestors tell, is that Kanekua'ana, the mo'o'akua wahine, the goddess of the fishery, overheard this conversation and was so angered by the greed of this konohiki that she gathered all of the oysters and took them back to Kahiki. And there were none left. So, when we were brought in to restore here, we didn't see any oysters in here. But as soon as we started to put up the wall, they came back and they climbed up on the wall. The Navy actually partnered with a group from New York City to test the possibility of seeding oysters into Pu'uloa to help with the filtration of the water. They're doing that in New York Harbor. 1 million oysters, something like that. So they seeded some right where the Arizona Memorial is today. And we were invited to go down there, and for us it was a moment of manifestation of Mo'o'akua Wahine returning to the harbor. She has returned now that the konohiki, who's the konohiki of the harbor today? If we looked at that, we never owned land, right? We never owned land, so the angst around ownership of land is a foreign construct. Nobody owned it, not even the ali'i, only stewards. Right? We appeal to the gods and to the ancestors. So she's returning. She has returned. She's bringing back. So that today, at the end of this wall, and we're waiting for a permit to be able to continue it, is at low tide a little slip of land. And I walked out there, and all I saw were these little oyster shells. Native oysters have returned over here. So the mo'olelo, the spiritual stories that they told us, they still manifest as long as we remove what doesn't belong inside here. The mangrove might have very beneficial uses in other places. Here, clearly, it helped to grow land, right? That's what it did. It helped to grow land because it collected all the silt. And that's what we see today is from leftover from where the mangrove was growing. But it did very big damage to the life in the water. The fish could not come in here. The birds could not come in here. Very little water could enter. And as we remove it, see the water starts to return intertidal. The springs still need to be reopened. The stream has been blocked because some people were able to build their houses into the pond. And the stream flows, see this tree line? That's actually the stream that once connected the fresh water to this pond. So the restoration of fresh water is critical to the ability to thrive. So, ancient days, what would they have done for that? Besides